You're fired. Consider it my gift to you. The message flashed across my phone screen like a punch to the chest. I was still in my wedding dress veil pinned perfectly, bouquet gripped tight. 10 minutes earlier, I had just walked out of the courthouse in downtown Austin, newly married to the kindest man I've ever known. Now, I stood in the lobby beside a cluster of helium balloons and the smell of vanilla cake, stunned by the glowing text from Mason Trent, the 28-year-old son of my company's founder and my direct supervisor for the past 3 months. He fired me on my wedding day via text. I showed the message to my new husband, Derek. His eyes scanned the screen once. No anger, no panic, just a calm smile. He squeezed my fingers and whispered, "Let it go for now, Eliza. This day is still ours." Eliza. That's me, Eliza Rowan. I'm 43. Or I was on that afternoon in early May. I had been the senior project coordinator at Maple and Rowan Consulting for nearly 3 years. The Rowan in the name wasn't a coincidence. I helped build the firm from the ground up. And then the board brought in Mason, fresh out of business school, who clearly thought I came with the office furniture. I tucked my phone away, smiled at Derek, and let the moment be what it was meant to be, joyful. But 3 hours later, during our backyard reception, my best friend and maid of honor, Nadine, rushed over. "Eliza, your phone hasn't stopped. You've got 92 missed calls." I glanced down. Half the company. And 16 missed calls from Victor Trent Mason's father, the actual owner. That's when I knew this wasn't just about me getting fired. Something had snapped open. Before I tell you what happened next, take a second to like and subscribe. Many people listen, but few follow, and you'll want to hear how this ends. I'm Eliza Rowan, and before that message, I was the backbone of Maple and Rowan. Detail-obsessed, deadline-proof, raised by a nurse and a librarian who taught me that integrity never goes out of style. And Mason, he picked the wrong day. When Mom was diagnosed with early-onset Parkinson's during my sophomore year at the University of Minnesota, I nearly dropped out. Instead, I picked up extra shifts at a campus dining hall, took on tutoring gigs, and pushed through. I graduated magna cum laude in urban infrastructure and systems design with a secondary focus in project analytics. That's how I landed at Maple and Rowan 3 years ago. Victor Trent, the founder, saw potential in how I thought structural logic fused with logistical precision. He brought me on to lead the overhaul of the firm's internal operations. I built a project command system from scratch, one that mapped every document version, every zoning issue, every resource allocation across our city contracts. Within 6 months, efficiency soared. Errors dropped. Victor called it the smartest hire I've ever made. Then came Mason. At 28, Mason Trent had cycled through 3 departments, never lasting more than a quarter. He had Victor's charm, but none of his grit. When Victor announced he was stepping back for health reasons and named Mason acting partner, my heart sank. Almost overnight, the culture shifted. Where Victor collaborated, Mason excluded. Where Victor gave credit, Mason claimed results. He canceled my team's documentation workshops. He rewrote my process templates with half the information. And he started freezing me out of major client briefings. During that chaos, I met Derek's city compliance officer, the guy behind the desk who actually read permit proposals instead of just rubber stamping them. He noticed inconsistencies in Crescent's latest urban bid errors that tracked directly back to Mason. As our relationship grew, so did my suspicion that my days were numbered. We planned a modest wedding, something quiet before things got worse. I never thought the firing would come during the vows. Later that night, I stepped away to the guest house, opened my phone and hit play. "Eliza, it's Victor. Call me immediately. Mason didn't have the right to fire you. No one can access your system. We're in crisis." More messages followed, each more frantic than the last. By the 6th one, Victor sounded nothing like himself. "I need you back. Before Monday. Or we lose the contract. Eliza, please. The Midtown Civic partners are threatening to pull out. No one can find the final draft of the redevelopment renderings." Victor's voice cracked through voicemail. "The password Mason tried doesn't work. We're stuck." I sat on the edge of a bench in the guest house wedding dress, flowing like a river of satin around me, and felt something strange, calm. For 3 years, I had built a system that functioned like an extension of my own mind, so streamlined that I could work it in my sleep, yet so secure that no one else could navigate it without training. And Mason, he'd cut those training sessions the moment he took over. Now, on what should have been a nightmare, I held everything. Derek found me sitting there, phone in hand. He crouched beside me, careful not to crease my gown. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you," he said softly. "The site plans Mason submitted to my office. He's been altering them, removing support reinforcements, downgrading material specs. It's unsafe." I stared at him, heart pounding. "That's not just reckless. That's illegal." He nodded. "I've been documenting it all. I was going to report it Monday. If you found strength and inspiration in this story, I invite you to subscribe and join our community because the next chapter is just around the corner, and you won't want to miss how this journey unfolds." Suddenly, everything made sense. His calm, his quiet knowing when I showed him the firing message. This wasn't a loss, it was insulation. Mason had unknowingly severed my liability and left himself exposed. "What do we do?" I asked. Derek smiled. "Nothing. Not today. Today, we celebrate. And tomorrow, we're on a plane to Belize." I returned to the reception like a woman with nothing to prove and everything ahead of her. By midnight, I had 212 missed calls. They didn't stop through the honeymoon. I let them all go to voicemail. Victor's tone shifted urgency, then panic, then pleading. By day 3, he offered to triple my salary. I deleted it. On day 5, he offered partial equity. I deleted that too. Derek said nothing. He understood. It was never about the money. It was about dignity. As we watched the sun drop behind the waves, he glanced over. "You know, city planning has an opening for someone like you." I smiled. Perfect timing. Understands infrastructure proposals from both sides. Someone who can build protocols that stop exactly the kind of shortcuts Mason was taking. Derek's voice was calm, but his words hit like a spark. I turned to him, raising an eyebrow. "Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting?" He smiled. "I'm saying it's time you launch your own consulting firm with the city as your first client. They'll pay for your expertise, especially now." The idea bloomed instantly. By the time our flight landed back in Austin, I had sketched out the core structure of the firm on my tablet. 3 days later, I officially registered Rowan Systems Consulting. Within 20 minutes of the public listing going live, my phone rang. Victor Trent. "Eliza, thank God. We're in serious trouble. The Midtown redevelopment is frozen. Clients are backing out. Please name your price." "I'm sorry to hear that, Victor," I said evenly, "but I'm no longer available as an employee. I've started my own firm. We'll contract with you then. Whatever you want, just tell us." I paused. "My first client is the city planning department. I'm designing verification protocols for incoming infrastructure plans." He fell silent. The moment stretched, then I heard it, the sharp inhale. He understood. I wasn't just walking away. I was holding the magnifying glass. "Eliza, please." Mason made a mistake. He resented your relationship with me. He felt threatened. "Some things can't be undone," I said. "Some lines once crossed, stay crossed." I ended the call. Derek looked up from his newspaper and grinned. "Feel good." Better than I expected. The following week, I signed the contract with the city. Armed with first-hand knowledge of how firms skirt the rules, I overhauled their entire verification system. Within days, we found discrepancies, dozens of them all traced to plans submitted by Mason. Thinned, load-bearing supports, critical reinforcements removed, material specs downgraded to save costs. The audit was swift and decisive. The Midtown project was shut down permanently and reassigned to a rival firm. Mason. Not just fired, blacklisted. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. I had turned their insult into my industry, and I wasn't looking back. Mason's professional license was suspended pending a formal ethics review. Maple and Rowan lost millions in city contracts. A firm with a 30-year legacy unraveled in just under a month. Through the grapevine, I heard Victor Trent suffered a minor heart attack from the stress. I felt no satisfaction in that. Victor had once been a trusted mentor long before his judgment was clouded by paternal loyalty. Meanwhile, Rowan Systems Consulting took off. Within 6 months, I had secured contracts with 3 different municipalities and hired 2 analysts just to manage demand. Derek received a commendation from the city and a well-earned promotion. We bought our first home, an older place on the east side with strong bones and sun-soaked windows. It needed work, but so did we, and we were ready to build something lasting. Then exactly 1 year to the day after our wedding, a cream-colored envelope arrived at my office. Inside was a handwritten letter, "Dear Eliza, some debts can never be fully repaid, but acknowledgement is the first step. Over the past year, I've been working to rebuild what Mason and I broke. Mason has completed an ethics certification and now holds a junior role under supervision. He understands now the weight of his actions. Maple and Rowan is under new leadership. We've overhauled every system. I'm writing to ask not for your return, but for your consultation. I want your input on our new protocols. I know this request may seem bold, but I trust your judgment more than anyone's. Whether or not you know this, you were right. You were always right. With respect and regret, Victor Trent." That evening, I handed the letter to Derek. "What do you think I asked? Should I meet him?" Derek paused. "Why would you go closure, curiosity, vindication?" I thought for a moment. "Maybe all 3. He smiled. "Then, I think you know what to do." I scheduled the meeting for the following week. When my assistant said Victor requested it take place at Maple and Rowan, I hesitated, but agreed. Walking through the doors felt like revisiting a ghost. But as I passed each workstation, I saw change new people. Fresh energy cleaner systems. And the conference room door was already open. I stepped into the conference room to find not only Victor, but Mason, as well seated rigidly beside his father. Victor rose to greet me. Mason didn't. "Eliza, thank you for coming," Victor said. His handshake was firm, but I noticed the toll the past year had taken, new creases around his eyes, a heaviness in his posture. I sat across from them in the newly renovated space. "Your letter was unexpected," I said. "As was the past year," Victor replied. "But necessary." He looked toward Mason. "My son has something to say." Mason finally lifted his eyes. The arrogance I remembered so vividly was gone. In its place was something quieter, shame, maybe even regret. "I owe you an apology," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "What I did was unprofessional, vindictive, and dangerous. There's no excuse." His tone wasn't performative. His hands trembled slightly, and the redness around his eyes told me this hadn't come easy. Still, apologies don't undo consequences. "Apology noted," I said, keeping my tone neutral. Victor cleared his throat and slid a folder across the table. "We've rebuilt everything, top to bottom. New protocols, independent audits, decentralized approvals. Mason is no longer in management. He's learning the work. Properly, this time. From the ground up." I opened the folder. It was a comprehensive overview of their new systems, transparent, well-documented. A consultant contract lay tucked inside with a generous offer for my oversight and feedback. "We're not asking you to return," Victor said, "only to evaluate, to hold us accountable." Before I could respond, Mason stood and left the room, returning moments later with a small envelope. His hand shook as he placed it in front of me. Inside was a check for the exact cost of our wedding, down to the last chair sash. "How did you get this number?" I asked. "My cousin's best friend was your planner," Victor admitted. "I asked for the total. I wanted to be accurate." Mason added quietly, "Consider it our gift to you, the one I pretended to give when I gave nothing." A sharp, familiar heat rose in my chest. Did they really think this would fix it? Then Mason placed a small USB drive beside the check. "This also belongs to you. It's your entire project infrastructure system," Mason said quietly. "All of it. Every access point, admin key, and archive. We managed to rebuild a skeleton version, but it never ran, like when you were here." He slid the USB drive toward me. "It's yours. Take it. Delete it. Do whatever you want. I stared down at the tiny silver stick, stunned by the weight it carried. 2.5 years of sleepless nights, stress-induced migraines, and pixel-perfect systems, design compressed into something I could balance between two fingers. This system had once been my legacy. Then it became the very thing used to push me out when Mason blocked the training rollouts and siloed my access. And now it sat before me like a quiet apology. Looking at Mason, no longer defiant, just tired, and Victor, a man aged by the fallout of denial, I felt something shift. This wasn't vengeance. This was reckoning. Sometimes you don't have to deliver the justice yourself. Sometimes surviving and thriving is enough. I closed the folder and stood. I'll review the proposal. Expect a response within the week. Victor nodded quickly. Understood. My rate will be 3 times the initial offer. Paid in full upfront. My team will need unrestricted access and 0 red tape. Agreed, he said without hesitation. I turned to Mason. And one condition for you. He sat up straighter. You'll complete every training module I assign: ethics, compliance, transparent reporting. No shortcuts, no excuses. You'll become the person you should have been before you had power. The color drained from his face. Still he nodded. Yes, I will. I gathered my things, paused at the door. And Victor, the check's unnecessary. Watching your son earn his integrity, that'll be payment enough. I left them there, the check untouched. The building that once dismissed me now held open its doors. But this wasn't the end. It was only a shift. That night over dinner with Derek, my phone buzzed with a news alert. The firm that took over the Midtown project under investigation for bribery. Did you know about this? I asked him. He shook his head. No. State's handling it. Not the city. And suddenly, I understood Victor's timing wasn't coincidence. It was survival. He must have seen this coming. Victor wasn't rebuilding out of remorse. He was positioning Maple and Rowan to reclaim the Midtown project once their competitor collapsed. The realization struck hard. This wasn't about respect. It was strategy. I wasn't being hired for closure. I was being used. Again. What are you going to do? Derek asked, catching the shift in my expression. I pushed my plate aside. I need to sleep on it. But I didn't sleep. I lay awake, eyes on the ceiling, replaying the entire meeting in loops. Was Mason's humility real or calculated? Was Victor truly changed? Or just desperate to protect what was left of his name? And more importantly, what did I want from any of this? By sunrise, I had my answer. At 7:03 a.m., I called Victor. I've reconsidered, I said. I won't be consulting for Maple and Rowan. There was a long silence. I understand, he said quietly. However, I added, I'm open to a partnership. A partnership? He sounded genuinely surprised. My firm oversees all project management and compliance. Maple and Rowan handles design and build. We present as partners, but operate independently. That ensures accountability and keeps ethics at the forefront. That's unorthodox, Victor said carefully. So was firing me on my wedding day, I replied coolly. I'm not stepping back into a system where I can be undermined. But I do care about Midtown. I want it built right for the community. He paused again. And Mason's your responsibility. But anything he touches goes through triple audited channels on my side. No exceptions. I'll need to run this by the board, he said finally. You've got 24 hours, I replied. After that, I submit my own proposal to the city as a standalone. I ended the call with a calm I hadn't felt in years, because for the first time, I wasn't reacting. I was creating, leading. Exactly. 23 hours later, Victor called back. The board has approved your terms, he said. With one condition, they're requesting a 3-year minimum commitment. I smiled already, writing the terms in my notebook. Then let's make it official. 2 years, I said, with an option to extend based on performance metrics we both agree to in advance. Done, Victor replied without hesitation. Just like that, Rowan Systems Consulting secured its biggest partnership to date. 2 weeks later, when the competitor firm was officially removed from the Midtown redevelopment project, Our joint proposal was already on the city's desk, complete with redesigned safety features, a compliance-forward framework, and a hybrid project management model that blended my original system with newly integrated oversight layers. The city awarded us the contract. The media called our partnership a pioneering model, fusing architectural creativity with operational integrity. Mason was assigned as junior project coordinator, 5 tiers below his former role. Every morning, my team sent him a new training module. Every evening, he was tested on it. Missed the mark. Repeat it the next day. To my surprise, he didn't complain once. He asked questions, took notes. Bit by bit, I started seeing the shift. 3 months in, I arrived early at the construction site for an inspection. Mason was already there, cross-checking the concrete mix specs against approved submissions. "You don't have to do that," I said. "That's what the engineers are for." He stood clipboard in hand. "I know, but I need to understand every step if I want to earn back what I lost." I watched him closely, looking for that smug kid who'd once sent me a termination text mid-wedding vows, but he wasn't there. "Why'd you do it?" I asked. "Why fire me that day of all days?" Mason flinched, but didn't look away. "Because you were right. About all of it. The training, the oversight, the gaps I refused to see. And I hated it." He exhaled. "You built something so solid. Even my dad admired it more than anything I'd done." I lashed out because I couldn't compete. "I thought ruining your day would make me feel powerful." But instead, he added, voice low, "I watched it all collapse because I broke the very thing holding it together." I nodded quiet for a beat. "You can't rewrite the past, Mason. But you're right about one thing. I would have been a good mentor," I said. "I still could be, if you earn it." A flicker of something hope maybe crossed Mason's face. How, he asked? By putting safety and ethics above pride. By mastering this work from the ground up. And by asking for help when you're unsure instead of pretending you've got it all figured out. "I can do that," he said quietly. "I will," I nodded. "Then let's start with these specs. Walk me through what you flagged." For the next hour, I guided him through the verification process, not just telling him what to check, but explaining why it mattered. Mason followed attentively, asking sharp questions that showed a level of curiosity and reflection I hadn't expected. As crews arrived and the site buzzed to life, Mason lingered. "Do you think you'll ever forgive me?" he asked. I paused. "Forgiveness isn't something you're owed. It's something earned over time through actions, not apologies. Show me who you're becoming." He nodded once. No protest, just quiet resolve. In the months that followed, the Midtown project surged ahead of schedule. Our dual-agency partnership drew national interest. Cities from Colorado to New York reached out for consultation. Rowan Systems grew to 15 staff. Maple and Rowan, rebuilt under new protocols, began to regain its footing. Victor kept his word. Mason stayed on a rigorous learning track. The same man who once undermined company-wide training, now he organized it, documented it, led it. Then, one afternoon, Raina, my former assistant at Maple and Rowan, showed up at my office unannounced. "He wants to promote Mason," she said. To assistant project manager, I asked, raising an eyebrow. She smiled. "He sent me to get your honest opinion." Mason's passed every training module. His reports are detailed, and the crew respects him. I studied her. "And what do you think? I think he's changed, and more responsibility could reinforce that growth." I nodded slowly. "Then, tell Victor I'll support the promotion on one condition." Raina tilted her head. "Mason presents the Midtown update to the public. Solo. Let's see how he handles representing this work to the community it's meant to serve." The presentation was scheduled for the following week. It was a pivotal milestone, an open forum to update Midtown residents on construction progress timelines and how their feedback had shaped the design. Tensions were high. The last redevelopment effort had ended in disappointment, and trust wouldn't come easy. I attended incognito, slipping into a seat in the back row of the community center. Mason arrived early. He set up displays himself, greeted attendees at the door, and made sure every detail was in place. When he stepped up to the podium, something unexpected registered. He was nervous. The old Mason would have masked it with ego. but not this time. "Good evening," he began. "I'm Mason Trent, Assistant Project Coordinator. Some of you may remember when this project stalled last year. I played a role in that. I made choices that compromised safety and ignored your trust." A ripple ran through the room. You could feel the shift. "I'm here tonight not just to report progress, but to tell you what's changed. Every stage now goes through triple audit verification. Our partnership with Rowan Systems Consulting ensures nothing breaks ground without passing strict compliance." He walked through the updated plans, highlighting the places where resident input had directly shaped improvements. When questions turned pointed as they did, he stayed calm. More than once, he said, "I don't know, but I'll find out and follow up personally." By the end of the night, skepticism gave way to something softer, cautious optimism. As neighbors approached him with more questions, he answered each with clarity and patience. I left before he saw me, but I'd seen enough. The next morning, I called Victor. "I heard Mason did well last night," he said before I could speak. "He did?" I replied. "I was there, and I let the silence hang a beat, knowing the weight of my words. He's earned the promotion." Victor exhaled audibly. "Thank you, Eliza. Your voice means everything here. Just remember, trust isn't rebuilt with one speech. It's earned through consistent integrity. We understand." I hung up and turned toward my office window. The midtown skyline shimmered in the morning sun. Cranes moved with purpose. So did we. The community was beginning to believe again. This wasn't the revenge I'd imagined when I returned from my honeymoon to over 200 missed calls. It was more complex, less about destruction, and more about rebuilding. I hadn't ruined Mason or Victor. Instead, I helped create a framework where they could become better professionals while I secured my own position of strength. I built something far more valuable than a system only I understood. I built a model of accountability that could outlast any single project or person. That evening, as Derek and I walked past the construction site on our way to dinner, we paused to watch the sunset glint off the partially completed buildings. "Are you happy with how things turned out?" he asked, squeezing my hand. I considered carefully. "I'm satisfied. Not because they suffered, but because real change happened. The company is safer. The buildings are stronger. The community will benefit. And Mason is—" I searched for the right word. "He's becoming someone his role deserves. Whether that redemption lasts is up to him." Derek nodded thoughtfully. "When I showed you that text on our wedding day, I never imagined this. I thought you'd want a scorched earth." "Maybe I would have," I said, leaning on his shoulder. "But you showed me another way. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction, but reconstruction. On your terms, not theirs." He kissed my head softly. "Speaking of reconstruction, the house renovations are finally done. Should we invite Victor and Mason for dinner to celebrate?" I laughed. "Let's not push it. Professional respect is one thing. Friendship is another." "Fair enough." He smiled. "One step at a time." That had become my mantra from the moment I got that wedding day text to building a partnership from the ashes of betrayal. The Midtown project would finish under budget and ahead of schedule. My firm would grow, and I'd be known as the woman who turned a wedding day firing into an industry-changing model. As we continued walking, my phone buzzed. A message from Mason. "Thank you for supporting my promotion. I won't let you down." I showed Derek. He raised an eyebrow. "Are you replying?" I typed. "Make sure you don't. Some gifts can't be returned. If you followed my story this far, thank you for listening and standing with me through every twist and turn. What I want to ask now is simple: support those who face betrayal, but choose to rise anyway. If you've ever been hurt or wronged in your career or life, remember that your response shapes your future more than the setback itself. Share your thoughts below. Tell me about a time you turned a challenge into an opportunity or a betrayal into your breakthrough. Your story might inspire someone else who's struggling right now. Life isn't about revenge in the way we often imagine it. It's about reclaiming your power, rebuilding your path, and choosing the higher road even when it feels harder. If there's one piece of advice I can offer, it's this: don't let anger or pain consume you. Use them as fuel to grow stronger, wiser, and more determined. Remember, true success isn't just about beating those who hurt you. It's about creating a life so meaningful that your past no longer defines you. So please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell because there are more stories ahead. Stories about overcoming, growing, and winning on your own terms. Let's walk this journey together.